setting the table with a table d'hote setting. Once you've prepared and polished all your cutlery, have it at your sideboard ready, then select the cutlery that you need for each cover or place setting. The cutlery you're going to need is laid out here, and working from left to right, we have a small knife. Small knife is used for the tea plate, and it's for bread and butter or roll and butter for the guest. Then we've got starter cutlery, and this includes a small knife and fork and a soup spoon. The soup spoon is the one with the rounded top. Moving across, we have the main course cutlery. This is called a joint knife and fork. It's a larger and stronger knife and fork for the main course. And then we have the dessert cutlery or sweet cutlery, and it's a small fork again. And this time the spoon is more egg-shaped, the dessert spoon. Once you've selected the cutlery that's been polished at your sideboard, put it onto the cutlery adjustment plate, which is your rectangular one, making sure there's a napkin on, just to protect the cutlery again from a hygiene point of view, but also to avoid a loud noise and rattling when taking it across the table or to disturb the guest. Once you've got all your cutlery on the cutlery adjustment plate, take that across to the table where you're going to set your place setting. This table already has its centrepiece, and you can see the cruet set, that's the salt and pepper, the butter dish, which goes in the centre, with a little plate underneath or a saucer as an underliner, and a little flower or plant in the middle of the table as well. The glassware we're using today is a wine glass, a white wine glass, which is a goblet with a stem, and then the highball glass or water glass that's used here, just in a diagonal position beside it. Make sure when you're bringing your glassware from the bar to always use a tray. Carry anything from the bar or the kitchen or your sideboard to the table by using a tray or your cutlery adjustment plate as an underliner. This makes sure that, again, you're ensuring good hygiene practices at all time, and when lifting your glasses from the tray, make sure you do that by the stem or the base of the glass, and certainly not putting your hands around the top and your fingertips on the rim of the glass where the guest is going to be drinking from. Placing your cutlery down at the place setting, take care just to make sure that as you go, that you're laying it carefully just about a thumbnail in from the edge. This table's quite useful as it has a little line as a guide, and this way then that you can make sure as you're placing your cutlery down that you're leaving enough space for the plate to be placed down when the food server brings it from the kitchen. We start with the forks, and at this side we have the starter fork and the main course fork, which is known as the joint fork. So we're working from our left in. At this side, we're going to place the larger of the two knives, that's the joint knife, making sure that there's sufficient space to allow a plate to be laid down in the middle, and also making sure that it's lined up with the forks just about a thumbnail in from the edge of the table. The next knife is a starter knife, so if the guest chooses from the menu and they decide on a starter that requires a small knife and fork, they have that right here working from the outside in towards the plate. And then there's also a soup spoon here, and if the guest chooses soup as their starter, of course they then have the correct cutlery for that. Dessert cutlery remains on your cutlery adjustment plate, and it's important to know the right place and the right direction for dessert cutlery. The fork is going to be placed at the top of the plate setting, following the direction of the other forks, just taking it around here, making sure that it's pointing away from those other prongs. The spoon follows the direction of the soup spoon this time, going to the top of the cover setting, with the point of the spoon pointing away from the soup spoon direction. That then ensures that your table d'hote setting looks just like this, with your starter cutlery on the outside, your joint cutlery on the inner side, closer to the plate, and then dessert or sweet cutlery at the top of the cover setting. You can remove your plate that you've used just as a guide to make sure that you're leaving sufficient space and that you're measuring everything up correctly to make sure that your cover setting looks just as it does here or in your reference book that you have for scholars.